actually 2 weeks ago, we launched RealReports. We actually made the announcement at our TechCon, which was on March 25th. Super exciting because Mr. Zach Gorman, who was at TechCon and also a founder of the company, was there when we made the announcement. So it's always nice to be able to have that happen. It rarely does happen in that format, that you can get the founder into an event. An event kind of falls on our launch. And this morning we're excited. I was in playing with it a little bit earlier. The integration into Matrix MLS. So this is a new tool that was rolled out. The board approved it, I believe, last November. And it did take us a little bit of contract back and forth with attorneys and all that kind of stuff. But once we got through that stuff, it happened really quick for us to get them on board and implemented and put on our dashboard. So we're excited to have them. This is, and not to steal any thunder, but we thought, as we look at what's happening in our industry and what's happening in our profession moving forward, understanding the product we're selling at a high level is important. And RealReports, if you ever bought a vehicle and you used a Carfax for a used vehicle, this is much like that for the homes out there. And a lot of people will say, and the board said this, we got information that this provides in this tool, and there's information in this tool, and there's information in this tool. And the cool thing about RealReports is it brings it together on one common platform, and it also has the undertones or integration of artificial intelligence in that as well. So it's more robust, in my opinion. And when I saw it in September last year in Seattle, I was very interested as somebody that's a recovering broker myself, the value, and saw the value in it immediately. So with that, let me turn over to the founder, Zach Gorman, with RealReports, and let you go through. If you guys have questions, your chats are off, but your Q&A box is open. So put your questions in the QA box. I'll be watching those, and we'll go through and read them out loud. But with that, I'm going to turn over to Zach. Zach, welcome.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Jason. And thank you, everybody who's here today for taking the time. I know everybody's got a busy schedule, so I'm going to try and be as expeditious here as possible. Let me just share my screen really quickly, make sure everybody can see that. Can you see that on your end, Jason?
Yes.
Great.
We're good.
All right. So what I'm going to do, just some housekeeping here. I'd like to just go through a couple of slides, give everybody just some high level about what RealReports is, what the product is, how agents are finding success with it out in the field. I'll show you a quick demo of the product just so you can see the nuts and bolts. And then I'll talk about what your benefits are as our PCRA members, and where you can actually access the platform, because we have a couple very easy, seamless ways for you to do that today. And again, just very excited to be here. Had a great time at the TechCon a couple weeks ago. Being able to meet a lot of you in person is very important to me. I know Jason just said it's great, of course, to have founders make an appearance, but it's also very important for me as a founder to be able to be face to face with all of you who end up using our product and really, hear what you're excited about, but more importantly, hear where the friction is, what things, don't make sense, because I want to be able to articulate as best as I can the real value of this product. And there is a lot there. So as Jason, I'll just echo him again. If you have questions, just drop them in that Q&A and we will get to as many as we can. But I'm also always readily available, and you all will get my email address, etc., after this presentation. So anyways, without further ado, once again, my name's Zach Gorman. I'm the co-founder of RealReports. Jason said this, but at its 30,000-foot view, you can think about RealReports as a AI supercharged Carfax for homes. And we're going to sort of dig in on what that really means. Just a little bit on our team. I think it's important to note that we all come from the space, experienced across agency, brokerage, MLS, technology, previously founded our own brokerages and prop tech firms. So we have worked with and been ourselves clients many, many times over. We've helped thousands of people buy and sell homes, closed hundreds of millions in home sales, and backed by some great investors in the space, which is always good. I say this again because I'm sure many of you use a lot of different types of technology all the time. And in many cases, because the real estate industry is so ripe for innovation, because, by and large, it can be a little slower in terms of adopting new technology. there's a lot of tech out there that is really a solution in search of a problem. And that's because a lot of the people who build the tech for real estate are themselves not actually practitioners. With us, it's the reverse. We built Real Reports because of the problems and challenges that we faced as agents, as brokers working out there in the field. Now, all of you are pros. I don't need to educate you on this. We all get it. The industry is changing every single day, it seems. We are all facing an increasingly competitive market, still trying to navigate all the rules and regulations around compensation, the lawsuits from last year. And, we've heard that it's been beat over our heads, but we know that differentiating ourselves, articulating our value, that is the core message moving on into this sort of new ecosystem in the real estate world. So our solution to all of this in terms of that value proposition is Real Reports. Again, think about it as an AI supercharged Carfax for homes. So what that really means is that we're bringing together comprehensive property information, like Jason was saying, from over 60 different data providers. And I'll touch on what that data looks like and where it comes from here in a sec. But the important thing to note is that this is outside of MLS data. By the time you've come to us, again, that Carfax analogy, you want to know what's under the hood. You've seen the MLS data, in the MLS, on Zillow, in whatever search portal you're using, your brokerage's website. Now you're trying to find out as much as you possibly can about that property, that parcel, and the surrounding area, because we cover all of it. That's when you come to us. This is available for every home in the United States, and you have access to get it for every home in the United States. You're not geo-fenced or anything like that. You can get something in your backyard, or you can get something across the country, and it is available for every home. I'll touch on the AI a bunch here because it is a very intrinsic part of what we do. But we've really, I think, cracked the code on how to use AI in a meaningful way in a product. Again, there's a lot of noise about AI in our space, and it's very important because by and large that technology is here to stay. But there's not been a lot of very sophisticated implementations of AI in the real estate space. We're still hearing about things being like, write me a listing description, and no harm, no foul. Like, that's a great way to use AI, but there's so much more. And again, I think we've really, cracked the code on that. And I'll sort of demonstrate for you all of the, ways that we've incorporated that into our product that don't require any technical overhead or expertise on your end. We've made it very, very seamless and accessible for you. And very importantly, this is a platform that is exclusively available for real estate agents. Again, the thing we're all focused on is, how do I articulate my value? When I'm sitting down with that buyer, going through my checklist and getting ready to sign that agency agreement, what are the reasons that they are going to work with me? We're very hopeful, and we've seen this, infinitum at this point with all of our different clients out there, that Real Reports can be one of those real value propositions that you can articulate to somebody of why you're different than their uncle who, has had a license for the last 30 years, doesn't do anything with it, and then comes out of the blue when, they're buying a home and wants to give them a good deal. People are shrewd, consumers are shrewd at this point. They are looking for real value, not fake value. And again, I think we can really be part of that toolkit for you. So when it comes to Real Reports data, this is what we're talking about. And this is not an exhaustive list. As you can see, there's a lot here. I'm going to spare all of you going through all of the data itself, but I can say with the utmost certainty at this point that we are unequivocally the most robust data set that exists for real property out there, period. And you can see where a lot of this data is coming from down below with all of those logos. Again, over 60 different data providers. I'm sure we will eclipse 100 this year. This is coming from first party, third party, private data sources, paid sources, government data, public records, everything. And that's important because not only do some of those have, some of those different data sources have specialization in terms of what types of data they really are great at, but it's also so that we can back up this data and create a lot of reliability around it. Because again, I'm sure I don't need to educate folks here. Data in our space is not great. And oftentimes a huge problem is that when we need to go find something out, we just go to one source to figure out, the answer to a question about a property. That source may not be correct. Let's use the example of the Zestimate valuation, common. Everybody gets hung up on the Zestimate because that just, happens to be the thing that everybody's aware of. Everybody uses Zillow, and they get really hung up on that one data point. But the Zestimate is just one valuation. There are so many different valuation providers out there, AVM providers out there. And I'll show you in the report, because we've got almost 8 or 10 that will show you for every property. They all say different things. And so it's just that philosophy is really intrinsic to our product, that it's one thing to just go have the data, and that's important, and we cast a very wide net in terms of the types of data that we have, but that reliability and the accuracy of the data is oftentimes only achievable when you have multiple data sources for everything. So that is very much our bread and butter, and sort of, how we put together the data in our reports. Again, as you can see, if you're just taking a quick scan of the data in here, a lot of the data in here is stuff that you're going to want every single time you're either listing to go to market or, submitting an offer. Things like zoning information or permits. You want to know if there are any open permits on the property, liens, things like that, tax information, tax rolls, all of that information. There's also some stuff in here that's very sort of geographically relevant or, timely given what's going on in the world. So, of course, in your all's area, things like flood insurance premiums. How much is it going to cost to insure this property? Are you in a flood zone? That's obviously something that's very top of mind. So that stuff is in there. There's also stuff in here, you're probably looking at this list and you're like, when am I ever going to need that? Things like, the distance to the nearest EV charging station. Well, the reality is, yeah, that may not come up every single time, but when it comes up, it's going to be really important and valuable to that client. And you don't want to leave them hanging and say, I don't know, when they ask a question about, where is the nearest EV charging station? I love my Tesla and I want to be able to use it every day, but I also want a property that's out in the middle of nowhere, because I want peace and quiet. So, where am I going to be able to charge my car? That stuff, when it counts, it actually is very important. And if you don't have to say, let me get back to you on that, and just say, oh, I've already got the answer. Again, articulating your value, why you're better than the next person, that's where all of this comes into play. All of that said, data is only valuable if you know what to do with it. And there's a lot, I could put every single piece of data or information about a home in front of you, and, in many cases, your eyes are just going to glaze over because there's so much information there. And that's where we really bring AI in to help out. So powering every single Real Report, included with every single Real Report, is Aiden, which is our AI property advisor. What Aiden has the ability to do is query the hundreds of thousands of data points in every report and answer any question that you or your client has instantaneously. That can be something like, are there any open permits on the property? What is the rental potential if I put this on Airbnb? Can I build an ADU in the backyard? Where's the nearest kid-friendly restaurant? Any question that you have, Aiden has the ability to look into the data of that report and get you an answer. That can be something very, very strategic or surgical, just like a quick answer that you need, that you don't want to go look through all of the information in the report. Or again, something like rental potential. That's something much more analysis driven, where you would have to go factor in trends in the area, cap rates, comps, occupancy rates. Are you talking long or short-term rental? There, that's a real, that could be hours of your time actually trying to put that together. Aiden can just do that analysis for you instantaneously. And beyond the data, Aiden actually has the ability to ingest other types of media. So you can upload property photos, inspection photos, or property documents, things like HOA or condo documents. Aiden will look through that document for you, summarize all the information in there that you need, and then you can have a back and forth in a conversation about any information that you still need to glean from that. So very, very powerful from a time-saving standpoint, and as I'll articulate here in a sec, also from a risk mitigation standpoint, to make sure that you don't miss anything critical as you're going through the process of either listing a property or purchasing it. And then other things to note, Aiden has the ability to capture leads. We know at the end of the day that the bottom line is we're trying to fill our top of funnel, bring in more clients, do more business, and we've built a tool that can help you on that side as well, which I'll touch on. The AI is fair housing trained, so if you ask anything that's out of bounds, it will make very clear and it will not answer beyond the question. It's also multilingual, so great from an accessibility sort of ADA standpoint. You can talk to it in whatever language you'd like, and it will respond to you in kind. Now, I said this when I was at the TechCon a couple of weeks ago. I think we're hearing this across the board, but it's worth always reiterating or articulating that it's our firm position that AI is not here to replace real estate agents. But like with every technological wave we've seen over the years, the practitioners who embrace that tech, put it into their process, and really take advantages of all the productivity and efficiency gains that it provides, they are going to be the ones that win the day. And it's a great moment in time because a lot of folks are still not really using AI, because in many cases, there just are not a lot of great AI tools for the real estate industry that exist, but also because, again, our industry is just a bit slower on the uptake when it comes to implementing these tools. This is your shot in many ways of widening the chasm between you and the competition. Take advantage of that opportunity now. And with tools like RealReports and others that you're using that use AI, this is that moment that you can really get ahead. So next piece here, in terms of like, how is this actually being used? Very important, obviously. We think about this sort of in 5 different buckets, but this is really meant to be a product that exists throughout your entire life cycle, whether you're working with buyers or sellers or using this to grow your business writ large. So I'm going to sort of break it down in these 5 different ways, but we'll sort of discuss how this is really used across the entire stack. So when it comes to providing value for buyers, RealReports are excellent for building that credibility up front. Talked about this at the beginning. How are you articulating your value? What is different about you? What are you bringing to the table that the next guy or gal is not? RealReports is an excellent answer to that because of how much data is in there. You can approach somebody with a lot of confidence and say, listen, I have access to this tool. I have access to information that nobody else is going to be able to have. Every time we go on a showing, we're going to be pulling one of these. Every time we list your home, every time we look to put in an offer, we're going to be using this tool and all the information in it to really power our strategic decision making and make us more confident in whatever vector that is in the process. Now, not only is that great sort of, for the upfront credibility and trust building, but once you are actually working with somebody, let's say, they're shopping around, they haven't, waffling, can't quite figure out what they want. We work with clients that may take many months to actually convert into a sale. RealReports also allows you to sort of re-engage those clients. You can actually invite them into the platform. They get to pull some reports on their own because we know consumers like to do that. And then you get to have full oversight into what they're doing. So if I invite Jason into my my RealReports account, I can see he's pulling 10 properties a day. He keeps looking at 123 Main Street over and over again. He's asking the AI about schools in the area. I have this really excellent feedback loop. Not only have I just provided him that value by giving him the ability to look at the reports himself and just do that on his own, but again, I get this feedback loop of ways to re-engage him when I see him taking that kind of critical action, critical steps. Reach out to him and say, hey, let's talk about 123 Main Street a little bit more. It seems like you're interested. And I don't need to wax poetic about this. We know knowledge is power, and we have just endless examples now of agents who use RealReports as a diligence tool before they submit their offer. It's helping them price better. It's helping them be more competitive in the negotiation process. So there's a lot of power that this data can provide in terms of actually getting those deals accepted. Now, sort of on the flip side of the house, as it were, in terms of listings, RealReports are excellent, very similarly to earning that trust up front. We have a lot of agents who use this as their listing presentation. They're coming armed with this report. They've got it on their phone, their laptop, their iPad, whatever they need. They're sitting down with a potential client being like, all right, let's talk about your home. Here's everything that I know and that I have access to. Again, guaranteed, this is going to be more information than anybody has ever seen about their property. And the next agent, across the block who doesn't have access to this tool is going to sort of look confounded and, just that much worse off because you're coming in data-driven, sophisticated, using technology, using tools that have AI in it. Every ounce counts in our industry. And so for you to be able to put out that signal up front is really, really going to help forge that bond and build that trust early on, which is so critical. And I encourage you, I'll make sure that these slides get sent around afterwards. But one of our earliest users, he's been a huge supporter of us from the beginning, Jimmy Moscoso. He's an agent based out of Boca. He's been using RealReports a long time. He went on a podcast recently, which you can click down here, this purple bar, and he talked about how he was sitting down with a luxury listing, potential client, $6 million listing, probably 15 other agents going after that. And he used the RealReport as his listing presentation, and those clients ended up going with him. And they told him explicitly, like, listen, it was the RealReport that really did this for us because everybody's offering this and that and the other thing, and it's all the same. But like, this was something new. This is something that is not just flashy. It has real value because that data is so important. So the stuff works. It's out there happening in real time in the field. So, take it from me, of course, but I would encourage you to hear it from somebody out there, a practitioner in the space. Lead generation, we talked about this. Again, building credibility up front, providing value throughout the life cycle with the clients, all of that is so incredibly important. But we also want to fill your cup, as it were. And you need to be bringing in more business. Filling your top of funnel is so important. And so this tool can be incredibly, incredibly powerful from generating lead standpoint. We have agents who will use this in their marketing materials for a listing that they have, or they'll just send this out as sort of a prospecting tool, put it on their website, social media, listing materials, say, hey, I have the Carfax for your home or my listing. If you want to learn more, click the button. You can get materials in the report similar to what you're seeing on screen that you can easily print out and put at your open house in place of a sign-in sheet, things like that. Anybody who tries to view your report has to enter their contact information in order to view it. So you're getting first name, last name, email address, phone number, high intent, high quality leads, because if somebody wants access to this, you can imagine that they have very high intent. If somebody wants the Carfax for a car or the Carfax for a home, this is not somebody who's window shopping. They really want to know what are the nuts and bolts that make up this property. Not only are you getting those leads in real time, but then additionally, you actually are able to get much more real-time insight on all of those different prospects. You can see that, Jennifer came in, looked at my Real Report, looked at it 10 times in the last hour, and is asking about ADUs. Awesome, because now I know who Jennifer is. I know how to get in touch with her because I have her contact information. I know how interested she is because she keeps coming back and I've got all those analytics. And I know something about her, like she wants to rent out this property, she wants to build an ADU. So I have just such a incredibly powerful and enriched lead that I can follow up with relevant information for them. That just, that feedback loop is so incredibly powerful. And again, we have some agents who are using this. They'll go into their CRM and send out a report to everybody in there and say, hey, if there's other properties you're interested in seeing, let me know. This is a new tool. It's something people aren't used to. And the idea of a Carfax for home has existed for a long time, but there's never, ever been a really meaningful execution on that. But consumers want the Carfax for homes. Like, they're very interested in that. So if you can offer that up to them, people are going to raise their hands and say, hey, I want to learn more. So what a great way to sort of engage, your entire CRM, your entire leads list with something that they haven't seen before, but there is latent market interest. In terms of mitigating risk, I think this all goes without saying. But obviously, as agents, as practitioners, we're always trying to dot our I's, cross our T's, and make sure that we're doing everything we can within our fiduciary duties to do right by our clients. And risk mitigation, of course, is one of those. We're trying to prevent buyer's remorse. We're trying to protect our sellers, before things get real, before we list on market, before we submit that offer. We're also trying to avoid lawsuits for ourselves and keep ourselves out of hot water. Again, RealReports is excellent for that because you've got all of this information in one place. You get to do that diligence, and you know that you're getting a far fairer crack at the best and highest fidelity data out there because we bring it in from so many sources, make sure there's consensus, make sure it's up to date and accurate, rather than you trying to go do that diligence on your own and ending up on sites with poorly maintained data or just one data source. So the only anecdote I think that I'd like to share here is one of the reasons why we started this company was because my co-founder, in fact, was trying to buy a place with his wife. They were expecting a child and they were looking to buy a place out in California. This was many, many years ago. So before a lot of the stuff that's been going on out there really came to the fore, but they had a offer on a property under agreement. And then lo and behold, rejected by 10 insurance companies for wildfire risk. Obviously a huge, huge problem. So again, this is here to help you do as much diligence as you possibly can, be as thorough as possible, and be able to move forward, again, whether you're listing or whether you're looking to actually submit that offer, confidently knowing that you've done as much as you can to learn about that property. And last piece here, I think we all get it. We're going to speed you up too. Instead of you trying to go to 15, 20, 50 different resources to get all the information you need on the home, then doing all of the analysis, collating information, looking through charts, graphs, tables, etc. Whatever you need, we've done it for you. It's all in one place. You've got the Aiden AI Copilot or AI Property Advisor in there to answer those questions for you and just save you time. And similar with documents, instead of having to look through an 80-page condo document, You say, listen, I just need to know, can you summarize the meeting minutes for me? Or are there any upcoming special assessments on the property? Upload that document. It's going to summarize, give you the information you need. You're on your way. You can continue to be doing what you need to do. Now, those are sort of the 5 buckets, but I do want to just highlight, like, again, this is a product that is meant to sort of sit side by side with you, because not only is data important at every vector of our process when you're working with buyers and sellers, but again, this can be used for lead farming, prospecting, staying top of mind. It really finds a way to provide value consistently and repetitively at all of these different junctures of your process. Now, with that, I'm going to quickly hop over to the demo. This is just a high level look at the product itself. We will be doing and hosting a lot more webinars in terms of just how to dig in onto various parts of the product, use different features, but I at least wanted to just give you some exposure to what it looks like. So let me actually show you the dashboard first. When you log into RealReports, and I'll explain how you do that in a second here, but we've got some very easy integrations from Clarity and Matrix. You'll land on the dashboard here. You've got some quick sort of account level navigation on the left-hand side. All the reports you've pulled will be here in this table. You've got quick links to a bunch of different education materials. We also have, if you click this Education Hub button, a very, very robust education hub where if you don't want to hear me yap about the product, you can go educate yourself. We got things like links to decks, onboardings, webinar information, use cases, product walkthroughs, FAQs. There's a lot of really helpful information in that hub. And then when you want to get a report, all you do is enter an address. Like I said, this is available for every home in the country. Say, great, that's the one I want. And then you choose which one of the tiers of the reports that you want. I'll explain the differences here in a second. Once you actually have the report, this is what it looks like. Again, over here on the left-hand side, these are all the different data types. So I can open up this menu if I'd like to see it sort of in this view. You can see everything that's in here. There's obviously a lot. I can click on any of the sections. It will scroll me to that part in the report where I can look at the data myself. You can scroll up and down very easily to see whatever you need to see. Up here at the top, next to the address, if you want to share your report, very easy to share. Just click the share icon. I can get a link. I can email this directly from the RealReport. I don't have to go to my CRM or type up an email. I can get a QR code. If I want that lead capture piece that I talked about, I can just turn this on so that anytime I share this report with somebody, they have to enter their contact information in order to actually view it. I get all of those leads sent to me. I get them in real time. I get emails about them, everything. So it's a tight feedback loop. If I want to print the report, now, as a technologist, the caveat here is that RealReports is really meant to be used as a web tool. You'll see that there are lots of charts and graphs. Everything is very dynamic, but we also want to meet you where you're at. We know that people like to have materials in front of them. So it's also very easy to print. We'll give you a branded cover page. We'll give you marketing materials like an open house flyer, so you don't have to go design that stuff in Canva or whatever products you use for that. We'll give you a 2 to 3 page summary of the report, high level information, so that you don't have to get too bogged down in hundreds of pages, because it can be quite extensive if you print out the whole thing. You can always curate what is included, what's not. I can turn off things like census data and crime if I want. Or if I want the entire report, I can go in here, click on all of the different report sections I want. Again, you may spend a lot on cartridge ink, but you have full control over how you curate the report itself when you're printing it out and sharing. On that note, we want you to be able to tell the story you're trying to tell about this property. So one of the other key features here is this order and visibility button. I click that. Now I can go in here, I can turn off sections of the report. Let's say crime information is just not something I want to share. Obviously understanding the sensitivity of that information. Maybe there's other information here that I'm just like, listen, it's not relevant for my client. So, if they're not interested in renting the property, why bog them down with that information? Very easy to turn sections on and off. That'll turn it off for you and for your clients. You can always turn it back on, and you can reorder any information by just dragging it and dropping it in terms of where you want it in the report. So if schools is something that's super important to somebody, drag that school section up to the top, can be one of the first things they see. Next over here, this is Aiden. This is the AI co-pilot that I was talking about, the AI property advisor. whenever you have a question about something in the report, you just go over here and ask Aiden. So I can say, how is this property zoned? So this is a very quick, sort of surgical type of question that I can ask. I'll go down here to the zoning section, and I can always see very easily, okay, how's this property zoned? Residential, single family, residency, awesome. Very easy for me to find out. But the AI is there to help just speed you up as well. And I could always ask it something more robust, like what is the rental potential on this property? I mentioned that example earlier. Rather than go down to the rental potential sections and do all of that analysis on my own, I can do it in real time in the report and just speed me up and getting the answers that I need. Now, other things to note, you will have a branding section up here at the top of the report. So this is where you can feature all of your information. When you share a report, this is what somebody will see first, so they understand who's providing this, where is that value coming from, how to get in touch with you. You can put links to your listings, your contact information, reviews, website, social media, add any notes that you have about the property, any insights you want to share is there as well. You got a section for property photos. We are going to be doing an integration with Royal Palm so that when you list a property, any of the listing photos will appear in here, but you can also add your own photos as well that you have, maybe inspection photos, whatever you want to put in there, you can. A very quick note on that. Anything that you upload to this report, photos, documents, notes, all of that is private to you. If you share the report with somebody, they'll see that information, but it is all private to you. You have full control over it. The AI is not trained on it. The AI does not store any of that information. And let's say Jason goes and gets the report for 21 Deer Meadow Road, just like I have here. These photos that I added to the property, this document that I added, any notes that I've added on my end, he will not see on his side. Every instance of the report that you pull is private to you and who you share it with. It is not shared with the broader ecosystem. So just a note on that, because I think that's very important. Below the photo section, you've got the document section. So again, this is where I happen to have the inspection report for this property. I uploaded this document earlier today. And you can see when I go in here, I've got a full summary that the AI put together of things I need to know from that inspection report. Something really cool that we added is the ability, when you upload an inspection report, it will actually parse out all of the recommended projects that it thinks should be done on the home. You can go in here, add more that you think are necessary, and you can actually go get an instant estimate quoted by local contractors in your area. So zip code level quotes down to the parts, lug nut, bolt, labor, everything you need. So really, really efficient way instead of having multiple providers come out, et cetera. Just one of the really cool ways that we use AI to sort of parse all of those projects and then use a bunch of different data providers to quote you for those large or small projects that you may want to do on the property. Now, I'm just going to really quickly breeze through some of the different data types in the report. Take note on the right-hand side here, this map will actually update dynamically as I go through. When I get to certain sections, different map layers will appear. You can see here on the right-hand side, there are a lot of map layers that we have as well that you can turn on and off. But quickly, just top to bottom, we start with valuations. So as I mentioned, we bring in a lot of valuations because something like the Zestimate is not reliable. It's just one data source. So for us, we'll show you multiple, and we'll show you where they come from, what our confidence interval is for each. So you can really click around and see, well, hey, this one from Melissa data is actually the highest valuation, but it's the lowest confidence. It also has the widest range in terms of the min and the max. So it's actually not very reliable. Me, as a shrewd data-driven agent, will look over here and be like, you know what? The value, at least from an AVM perspective, is probably up here in this cluster. That makes a lot of sense. That's where everything's sort of, all balled up together. I can look at all of those individual AVMs here in this chart or in the table, and we give you some, the higher level look, the confidence weighted interval of all of those valuations up here. And listen, again, we want you to be able to tell your own tale when it comes to the story. You can always add your own valuation. You can go in here, and if you've done the comps, you've done this, CMA analysis on your side, and you think there's something different than what's being said, you can also add that in as well. Now, below that, we've got permit history at the property, zoning information. So, things like setbacks, can you build an ADU, what zones the property in, what's allowed, what's not. Again, you'll see the map is actually updated Now it's showing me the zoning around this property, and I can click into any of these sections to get more info. I've got things like long-term rental potential, so cap rates, trends in the area, a bunch of different HUD programs in terms of the map layers I can turn on and off, all the comps, same for short-term rental. If I want to Airbnb this property, what do the occupancy rates, nightly rates, monthly rates look like, cap rates, even live listings. I can click over, see how those homes are being marketed on Airbnb or Verbo. A bunch of financial information, so owner's mortgage amount, equity, liens, loan and transaction history, tax rolls, tax information, tax history, FHFA conforming loan limits, location affordability index, HOA details if it is in one, ownership information, a ton of neighborhood and points of interest. So I can click through all of these. You can see them on the map. We've also got things like BLM, national recreation sites, congressional districts, federal lands, public housing, protected areas, railroads, neighborhood scores, school district information, what district you're in, where your kid's going to school, nearby schools and scores, building and site characteristics, home efficiency, energy efficiency features, site information, opportunity zones, utility estimates, things like how much you can save with mini splits, solar, electricity, HVAC, internet providers and speeds, remodel estimates, wind turbines, power plants, power transmission lines, EV charging stations, a bunch of environmental factors. So flood information, the flood map, faults, dams, climate zones, seismic hazards, wetlands, cost of flood insurance, weather at the property, area resiliency, radon levels, air quality, news and media, census information. So again, there are so much in there. That's why people end up gravitating to use the AI because you can just, instead of looking through all that information, you can just go get it by asking the AI questions. And again, we show you that data and we show you all the sources where it's coming from because we want you to have that transparency. We want you to know where that data is coming from. The AI is really the mouthpiece for the brain that we've put together with all of those different data sources so that eventually, once you're comfortable using the product, you really just end up talking to the AI, getting the answers to the questions you need, and you're on your way. Now, I know that's been a lot. I'm going to just finish up with a couple of slides here, and then we can take any other questions that folks have before jumping off. So there are 3 tiers of the report. We have our snapshot, our buyer, and our seller. The high level differences between them is that they come with more and more data. The snapshot report comes with a ton of information, as you will see. The buyer comes with everything in the snapshot, and then the seller comes with everything across all 3 tiers. Now, your benefits as Royal Palm Realtors are the following. You get a free RealReports subscription. So that's $120 annual value to you, gratis upfront. What does that come with? It comes with unlimited snapshot reports. So today, right now, you can log in, and I'll point out how to do that in a second, but you can go get this for any home in the country, as many as you want. Again, you're not geo-fenced. You don't have to worry about, is it outside my market or not? You can get a home in Minnesota, Texas, California, Florida, wherever you would like. You can go get these free, as many as you want. And that they come with AI. They come with a ton of data in them, something that a lot of agents are using for prospecting, sending out to past clients, trying to engage them. There's real value in that snapshot report. We also have our higher tiers, like I mentioned, buyer and seller reports. You get a steep discount off of those. And again, just to sort of give you perspective of when these are being used, we have agents who will spend 95% of their time in that snapshot tier because there's a ton of value there up front. They're using it for research. They're using it for prospecting. They're using it to engage clients. They're using it to provide that value up front. It's really only when somebody's listing a property or trying to submit an offer that they're like, all right, now I want to do the deep dive. I want to learn as much as we possibly can because we're trying to mitigate risk. We're trying to make sure that we're moving confidently and strategically forward. So, a small price to pay to be sure, but there's a lot of value to be unlocked in that snapshot level. Everything will be branded, so it feels part of your ecosystem. You get all of those premium features I mentioned: the AI document analysis, the photo analysis, being able to invite clients into the platform. All of this is free to you, and then you can upgrade to those higher tiers if you'd like. We also have an automation for listings. So what does that mean? Anytime you list a new property, we're going to send you the snapshot report directly into your inbox. So you don't have to lift a finger. It's coming directly to you. You click the button, you're instantly in the report. We just want to bring this product in as many ways to you without you having to think about it. So this is one of those ways, very easy. And it's a great time to have access to a Real Report because you can start using that to market the listing. You can use that to go generate leads. And we just deliver that directly to you. In terms of getting started, so I mentioned we have a lot of other ways that you can get into the product. You can click the Real Reports icon from your Clarity dashboard. I've actually got it up here live so you can see that Real Reports icon is right there. You click that, an account will be created for you automatically. You'll be sent to that dashboard that I showed you earlier. You enter whatever address you want. You select which tier of the report you're interested in. Again, if you want that snapshot report for free, you got it. If you want to upgrade into the higher tiers, you can go for that as well. And then you're off to the races. You can start using the report. And then as of today, we also have a integration with Matrix. So when you are on a listing, and I've got it over here, you'll see that Real Reports icon right here next to the dot loop one. You click that, same thing. It'll bring you to the product. It'll sign you in, create an account for you automatically if you don't have one. And it'll actually have already entered the address. So all you need to do is click which tier of the report you want, and you're on your way and you'll get it for that property. Last bits here, just in terms of what you can expect from us. We take, our partnerships incredibly seriously. We have very fast and responsive support. You're always going to hear back from us within an hour, within 24 hours, but it is oftentimes within an hour. We are always building new features based on feedback. We've got very thick skin. So if anything, we love positive feedback, but if more than that, we want to know what we can do better. We want this to provide actual value for you because there's so much tech out there that just doesn't. And what is that helping anybody? So if there are things you want to see, new data, new features, ways things could be better, please let us know. Do not be shy. We'll be doing lots more webinars and training. We host a curriculum every month where we do deep dives into the product, larger education around things like AI, and just try and really keep things fresh so that, as you saw, there's a lot to the product and we want to make sure that, you're learning as much as you can about how to be successful with it. So keep a lookout for that. You saw the education hub that I showed you, a lot of other asynchronous resources that you can access as well. Again, we really want to empower all of you to have success with this product and make as many ways available to you to actually achieve that. So lean on us, lean on the education hub. Let us know what we can be doing better. Again, the feedback part is so, so important to us. And that's all I've got. I know that was a lot. That was like 45 minutes. I hope everybody got value there, understood sort of high level what we're talking about, what this provides to you, but happy to take any questions. Thank you for the attention.
Yeah, so if you have questions, go ahead and put them in the chat. We'll be watching that. Just a couple things, Zach. First of all, thanks for spending the time with us. I think it's important people see, kind of how you got to where you're at, and the reason behind it was to fix a problem, right, that you experienced personally. So, you were in the same business that they were in. I spent 20 years in that as well. And the one thing I would say was I wish this was around 3-4 years ago when I was selling real estate, because I think the value is immense. And a couple things I took away was you talked about embracing technology. Some people will embrace AI and leverage it for themselves. Some just won't do it. And I kind of relate that to, CRMs, right? And a CRM that works for you. We already always ask, what's the best CRM you can have? And it's the one that works for you. And for a long time, when I first started, it was 6 years before I got my first CRM. And it was the biggest mistake I made, but also the biggest success I had was I did embrace and I did use it. So people, I have a CRM, but are you actually using it, right? Because there's a difference between working your CRM and not. And what I found was when I really embraced it, I was able to go and scale my business from 8 houses a year to 20 to 40 to 60 on sales because I embraced a piece of technology that, I had one. It took me a year to embrace it. But same thing with this. I mean, you bring a lot of good points about bringing credibility to the customer. And I think about how many people buy houses in Southwest Florida that have houses in Wisconsin or Minnesota. And how about, hey, how about those phone calls? Everybody says, well, I have nothing to say. I haven't talked to that person in a year. Well, what am I going to say to them? Well, it's easy. I call you and say, Zach, you still have that house in Minnesota. You guys going back and forth. What are you guys looking to do? Oh, we're selling it in 3 years. Fantastic. I got a great tool, right? Because like you said, it's not geo-fenced in. Now you can bring them value on the house that they are now snowbirds at or may sell. It's a great a great touch point for them as well. So we've got some questions here. When printing an open house page is included, how can you remove that page if not something I'd share with a client when printed?
Yep. Super easy. So when you're, I mentioned this, but just to reiterate, we give you a lot of customization when you're actually printing something out. So I go to my little printing button here. I see all the different options of things that I can print. Very easy. That open house flyer in this case, if I don't want that, I just click it, it's checked off, and now it will not be included when I print it out. So again, you can do that for individual sections when you're doing the summary. If you want to print out full report sections, you can turn those on and off. You get that customization at whatever level you like.
And that's huge. I mean, this is basically, you get it your way, right? And not having that. A lot of technology out there is like, here's what you get. RPR is kind of like that, right? You've got report A, B, or C, and you can add or select like 2 or 3 things, but not everything. So you end up with a report that's 200 pages long. All right, so we answered that there. Next one I got here is, does this show how many views a listing is getting online via MLS, Zillow, and Realtor.com?
It does not, no.
Okay. I know we had a program that used to show that, and they went to a different model, which is subscription-based for the agents. So we are in search of something to replace that. Sure. If you're using the AI online to answer client questions and create a link on our website, is there a cost for that?
If I'm understanding the question correctly, there wouldn't be a cost. Just to clarify, the AI is just in the report. So you can link to the report from wherever you like, wherever you want to syndicate that information. You can link that very easily. The AI will be in the Real Report. The clients can interface with it. You see everything that they ask, so you can always have full vision on that. So again, you all get the snapshot tier of the report for free. That comes with AI, so there's no cost to you on that at all. And then if you want to upgrade to those other reports, the buyer and seller tier, that's $10 and $20 respectively. Those also come with AI. And obviously, because the AI is trained on the data in the report, the more data in the report, the more sophisticated and knowledgeable and aware that the AI will be. But brass tacks, if you're getting the snapshot report, there's no cost to you and you get that AI.
Yep. Next question is the 120 annual pricing cover everything for the year and all buyer seller pricing? So if you pull that pricing back up on what we get,
yep, let me pull that up.
That here. Subscription would be, that's what we're covering on our side for the MLS, Florida Gulf Coast and RPCRA. And then we got a discount built in. Normally, that buyer reports 15 with the contract we've got an agreement and partnership. It's 10. And then it's 30 for the seller reports, and then 20 with the relationship we have. Is that correct, Zach?
Yep, that's right. And it's also worth noting, I should have included this here, but those snapshot reports, if you want those on your own, they would be $5 a pop. So you're getting all of those for free, unlimited. So there's an actual cost for those reports if you went and bought those retail.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, this is a great. I know we saw the snapshot reports are fantastic. We wanted to bring some value to you as somebody that, was selling real estate, or somebody that, now I'm a customer, which is even worse, Zach, as a consumer, because I'm a consumer out there, right? I want to know this stuff as a buyer. I mean, I'm out looking at houses now and working with agents, and I want to know this information about the home, right? I want to know, flood information and all this kind of stuff. I know a lot of people want the ability to search by flood zone. And the problem that is there, quite frankly, as somebody that deals with this every single day, the problem we have is the accuracy of the data. So, people say, well, I wish I could search by flood zone. Well, the problem is if it's put in manually and that individual agent that put it in makes a mistake, it no longer is going to be valid. Right. It's bad information, and there's risk involved in that. But if I'm able to say, hey, listen, for $10 a report or $15 or $25 a report, if I can say, listen, let me show you, we're down to the final 3 you like. Because let's face it, let's find the report first. How many people shop homes by price? I mean, you shop cars by price, you shop boats by price, you shop there's things you shop by price.
Yep.
You either like it or you don't. I had people when I was working with buyers that would walk away from a house versus settling for something they're not going to be happy with, right? So at that point, I would think it was worth the investment to purchase that buyer report for all three of the prospect homes and be able to provide that value to that individual. Is that kind of the vision? Am I on track?
Yeah, absolutely, of course. And two things to note again, obviously we're a business, we like to sell and make money, but like we want you to have real value. It's something that's not going to cost you up front. And that's why we put so much information in that snapshot report. Again, there's more than I can list. I don't want to waste people's time by going down that list, but even critical information, things like flood zones and flood insurance premiums, like you get that for free. You don't have to go pay for a flood report anymore. That's just something you can pull all day long for free. Again, any home in the country. And where people really spend their time is, like Jason was saying, they'll go pull those snapshot reports, send them to everyone in their CRM, every past client, everybody who's just a lead in the area, and sort of use that as a carrot to dangle in front of them and be like, listen, here's a sort of preview of this tool that I have and all the different types of data that are in it, sort of Carfax. Are you interested in seeing it for your home? Because I can get a much more robust version of that. Or is there a property you want to see that for? So you have a lot of flexibility with no cost upfront to you to actually go get value from that, sort of tease that out. And then again, as Jason was saying, once you're really getting ready to go to market or submit that offer, that's when you're like, all right, now it's worth spending the money to go do that diligence, feel confident moving forward, be competitive, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, and not to get off on a tangent, but we won't have an MLS Monday next week, the 14th. We will have one on the 21st, and that topic is, farming an area. And when I lived in Moody River, everybody says, well, I'm not going to farm because there's 32 agents living in my neighborhood. And to me, that wasn't a stop point for me, right? So I use tools like Remind, which we provide, Remind Pro. And I got down to the most likely to sell, which I took, 4,000 doors down to 35, right? Kind of the high level on this, and maybe it's a snapshot of a home outside the area and kind of a version of that has some of that key information in it. But, if you're doing a mailing 6 or 7 times a year, we run out of stuff to say. So, the whole thing about list with me, because I can provide you as the seller things about your home you don't even know, and list some of those examples on that farming piece. So I just see there's a lot of value with that. And to your point, QR code to the report, right? And then they have to put their information to get access to it. Now you've got the lead. Now I know they got my postcard or my letter. I know they looked for the real report online, and now I have their phone number, which is more than I had before. So there's a lot of ways I think this integrates into, building your top of funnel, and then also truly helping your buyer or seller. Like I said, as a consumer, I was frustrated the first 2 times I went out because I knew what I knew, and I'm shopping outside this MLS area north of me. So I don't have the back office panel, admin panel of it. So I provided the MLS listings off of realtor.com, and the agent pulled the information. I asked a lot of questions and they had no answers. I'm like, as a buyer, frustrating to me, right? Frustrating to me. And I wish they had this level of data. But again, it's a great tool. We just got to use it, embrace it, use it. You can't break it. So,
yep.
All right. Anything else you want to add, sir?
No, I think that's all I've got for today. Again, I'll just reiterate, like, for all of you, go test this out, find out what feels good, what doesn't feel good. We're always learning, we're always trying to get better. Like, let us know where the friction is, what can we add, what if it's data sources, features, whatever it is, like, please give us that feedback. We build very fast. This is not like working with the large incumbent providers, big data providers, things out there where like you ask for something and it just goes into a void and never gets answered. Like, we will build the things that you're asking for. So again, don't be shy. We got thick skin. We want to get better.
Yeah. And I think just to echo that, when we had met, which was September of 24, I was in Seattle, we sat down. We spent some time going through some of the stuff you had then. And by the time we signed the contract, you had expanded the data points, And by the time we went to implementation, you expanded the data points. And when
Yeah.
we launched, you expanded the data points to over 60 different places. So just in less than a year, right, from when we met, you've completely taken the software to the next level. It's already great. I was already sold on it. Everybody was already sold on it, but you've taken the next level. So they do take that feedback seriously. They try to, they do listen to it. I mean, not everything's going to be able to be done or
Yep.
makes sense, but you have taken it to what it is today. And it's fantastic. So I'm
Sure.
super excited about this relationship we have. Again, I appreciate you for participating today, as well as TechCon. I know it was a big lift to have you come down here.
That was great.
Spend time with our members. I will say, I mean, he had a booth there, had some great feedback. We did send our surveys out, great feedback on that. And then he participated in both kind of rolling out the product, talking about AI in general in a keynote. And then he also went ahead and spent some time as a panel. There's a couple other ones I think that may have came in here. If you enter 1261 Biltmore, Fort Myers, what would the flood zone show? The property is in multiple zones. So
Yep.
somebody's sit on the line of it, basically.
Sure. Yeah. So we'll show you. We've got multiple data providers which are giving us flood zone information. We try and work those against one another to make sure that there's consensus. So we do a lot of heavy lifting on our end, sort of algorithm driven, data driven, to sort of confer, look at all those different data sources, see who the most reputable ones are, and try and offer our best consensus possible. You're also going to be able to see the flood map, so you'll be able to look specifically on your own, dig in there, and sort of compare and contrast all of that to make your best assessment there. But you would see that overlapping zone when you would look at the flood map.
Yep. I would tell you, Terry, go ahead and pull it up.
Yeah.
With it. If you have feedback, again, you got Zach's information, you got my information, Shirley. Next question was, maybe you missed it, but when's this been live? So we went live on the dashboard 2 weeks ago. We were live we made the announcement at TechCon on March 25th, live on stage. And that's when everybody heard about it. And then we did the press release you guys did. We did our press release, internal communication internally. And then today, you guys are integrated into the MLS. So the integration is kind of put together in, kind of waves. But we are integrated with them right now. RealReports, you go run it right there in your dashboard. It is live right now.
Yep.
So it's
right
only
here on
been
the
a couple
dashboard.
weeks, but we are here.
Yep. Here on the dashboard. So you just click that, an account is created for you automatically, as well as this is new as of today. When you're on a listing page in Matrix, you'll see this little Real Report icon. You click that, it'll also create you an account, push you where you need to go. So two points of entry there.
Yep. And that's the integration we talked about. That took a little bit longer because that's a harder lift and it's out of my control and it's out of Zach's control.
Yep.
So, but it is in your MLS. So, and it's a product we've got. You won't see these. Well, I know we get flooded calls. You will not probably see these on Naples listings, et cetera, necessarily. And if you don't, it's because it's a different listing number. But you can copy and paste that address into it on the dashboard and have it pulled up as that. Because they don't have this service. They're not on this service. It's something we're providing for you as Florida Gulf Coast and Royal Palm. So, all right. Well, I appreciate it once again, Zach. Thank you so much. We're at 12:01. Thanks, everybody. Again, no MLS Monday on the 14th, but we will see you on the 21st. Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody, for your time. Cheers.